So, of course, when your name gets mentioned in conversations in South Africa, aside from you being the Chief Justice, you are synonymous with the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. And I think that's how many South Africans first got to know you in some ways. Looking back on that experience, I mean, the commission has become this watershed moment in South Africa, and it's become a really key moment in the country's recent history, and will continue to be that going forward. For you personally, having been so intricately involved with that process, what were some of the lessons that you learned during that experience on a sort of personal level? How do you feel like that experience may have changed you in any ways?
Well, that experience strengthened my resolve to be part of the fight against corruption, because I had this evidence that was unraveled during the investigations, and one saw how money that was meant to be used for taxpayers to build roads, to build clinics, to build schools, and so on, was lost through corruption. And you think about the challenges that a lot of communities face without bridges, and you have places where kids can't go to school if it's raining because there is no bridge. The school is on the other side of the river. So it strengthened my resolve, but it also underlined the importance of the rule of law, and that also how important it is that in an inquiry such as that the chairperson should and all concerned should seek to treat everyone fairly. There would always be accusations that you're not treating so-and-so fairly or whatever, but in the end, if you are satisfied that you are treating people fairly, it's fine, because those accusations will be made maybe in the hope that you will end up treating certain people in a special way, but you have to have your own standard, and if you are satisfied that you are being fair, then that's fine.
And the most challenging part of that role, I mean, and I appreciate that must be a difficult question because it must have been challenging on many levels. but some of the most difficult things for you to.
Well, the most difficult position was when the former president walked out of the commission. And I had to make a decision as to what should happen. As you might recall, I think he walked out on a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. I think Thursday, 19 November 2020, if I recall correctly. And I announced that I would reflect on the developments and over the weekend, and would announce early the following week what would happen. And I used that weekend to reflect and as to what should happen. And then on the Monday, I announced what we would do. Of course, later on, even after we obtained an order from the Constitutional Court, he defied it. That was something completely unexpected. I never thought that somebody I would have never thought that anybody would ever defy an order of the Constitutional Court. Not to speak of somebody who had been president of the country. There too, I had to make a decision as to what we would do, and reflected and made the decision and announced what we were going to do. It was clear to me that the matter could not be left like that. And but deciding exactly what to do was not difficult, because my approach was, what will be done is what is normally done in the courts when somebody defies an order of court. And when I announced that we would apply to the Constitutional Court for contempt of court, I emphasized that this is what gets done. So we were following what gets done when anybody does that. And then, of course, the rest is history.
I mean, you said it wasn't a difficult decision to make in terms of, you looked at it, from what I understood, from what you're saying, quite objectively, in terms of this is how things happen in the courts across the board. But was it perhaps daunting to have to make that announcement, with it being such an unprecedented move in terms of the people involved?
Well, while it was easy to identify what we needed to do, the fact that this was so unexpected, and it was somebody who had been president of the country, made it very difficult to understand why would he do this, you know. So, but also wanted to be aware that there could be certain challenges, you know. But it was very clear to me that there was no option. One had to do what was required in terms of the law, and then one went ahead. You know, one knew one would face all kind of attacks and criticism, but it was quite clear that it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
So now, some 2 years after, I think, the last report was publicly released, there has been criticism from the public around the slow pace of prosecutions. And sort of bearing in mind what we did hear from the NDPP earlier this week, when she spoke at the special ceremonial sitting of the Crown Court, where she said that perhaps the Commission might have created unrealistic expectations about how ready for prosecution some of these cases were. Do you think that criticism that I mentioned around the slow progress perhaps is warranted?
Well, I think that there is no doubt that the pace is not satisfactory. It is slow. There is no doubt about that. But of course, what I would say, excuse me, what I would say is that one must also bear in mind that we don't want the NPA to rush to take cases to court that are not ready, that have not been properly investigated. Because when it does that, people who may be guilty of corruption get scot-free, get off scot-free. So it's important that the NPA ensures that when it does take cases to courts, the investigation has been done properly, and it's a case that is likely to stand. So on the one hand, one understands the public's impatience, but on the other hand, I would rather wait a bit, let them do a proper job before they take it to court, because criminals will get encouraged if each time the NPA takes a case of corruption to court, the case is thrown out. They'll get encouraged and intensify corruption, because they will see that they are always winning against the NPA. So it's important that the NPA be known that when it takes a case to court, then it knows that it has got a solid case. Yeah. I mean, I can make an example with regard to the commission. while the commission was going on, there were also voices of people saying, hey, this commission must finish. Why is it taking so long? But I was very clear in my own mind that I would not allow that criticism to end up making me make decisions that I wouldn't have made just because I want the criticism to go away. So my plan was I will stop the commission when I believe that it has done a reasonable job. I would not hand in half-baked reports. So we continued. People complained, but as long as I thought we should continue, we continued. So we stopped where I thought it is fine to stop. Yeah.
And then something that you've been very vocal about, and I think that it ties into the commission, is the protection of whistleblowers and a need to improve the protection of whistleblowers. And today we're speaking on the 3rd anniversary of Babita Deokaran's death. And against that backdrop, and against the backdrop of recent assassinations and assassination attempts that we've seen, for example, on State Advocate Karth Nordia in KZN recently, what do you think, or what are your thoughts on the progress or lack thereof in the last few years in terms of bolstering that support and that protection? Where do you think some of the gaps might still be?
Well, I know that the Department of Justice was working on amending some legislation with regard to that issue. I'm not sure how far they are with that. Certainly, I don't think that there has been anything that has been passed by Parliament. It may well be that this year being an election year, that might have contributed to some programs being slow or being made to wait. But I think that the last time I saw what the Department of Justice had, it had not made a decision to the effect that, for example, whistleblowers do need to be paid compensation, which is supposed to be an incentive, which is for me very important. I've said in public platforms that some people might say, no, people have a duty, a moral duty to report crime and so on and so on, and they shouldn't be paid for that. But the kind of levels of corruptions that we have in this country don't give us that luxury. If people are going to blow the whistle because they will get paid if it is shown that that was genuine and people are caught and so on and so on, then we should give them incentives. Maybe another country which has got low levels of corruption might afford that luxury to say, no, we won't pay. People must just blow the whistle out of their moral convictions. But we are not in that position. Yeah.